Well, hi once again, everybody. Welcome to another awesome edition of the 19th Hole Podcast for golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers. We've got another great show for you today because we got one of our favorite guests on, a gentleman who is involved in the legal side of golf, so to speak, because he's a very longtime attorney at law and litigator, and always interesting to have on because he's full of very interesting information that's really not known to the public at large. But anyway, the weather here in Las Vegas is still warm, but it's playable. We're not setting records every day like we were a couple of weeks ago, so it's kind of okay to get out and play as long as you're playing at a good speed. You don't want to be out there even in this weather for a long time because things could happen. You got to stay hydrated, you know that. Got to stay covered. You got to wear a hat, all that type of thing. And I'm wearing a hat, which I usually don't, in honor of our guest today because he always wears a hat when he comes on the show. So I figured, what the hell? I'm going to put on my Live hat, and we're going to be talking a lot about the Live Tour as well as the PGA Tour today on the show. Congratulations to Xander Schauffele winning the Open for a second time last week. Good tournament. Why was it good? Because great venue, number one. Number two, they had some weather, and that's what separates that major from all of the others. And I kept saying for years with the good weather, heck, they might as well have it here in Las Vegas. It's not an Open without some rain, without some wind. And then that, to me, separates the guys very well, and you saw that they had some horrendous scores, but you gotta get through it. Tiger, of course, didn't make the cut, which I kind of predicted the week before. Tiger has never played well in adverse weather, as most of the guys on the PGA Tour don't play well in adverse weather. Why? Because the weather here, with the events that they play, is always good. They don't worry about rain. They don't worry about snow, lightning, or whatever. So that, to me, really separates the guys. So, again, congratulations to them. A very good event. As I mentioned, our guest, Larry Klayman, is a very notable attorney at law for a long time. He's a litigator. And the reason he's so damn tough is he's a former prosecutor for the U.S. Justice Department. He hosts his own weekly podcast, which we will talk about, and he is the founder of both Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch, which a lot of you know what that is, that is tuning into the show today. So without further ado, we got a lot talked about. Let's bring Larry up on camera and welcome him to the show. I got my hat on for you, buddy, so I wanted to make you feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, I'm honored. Thank you, my good friend.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. Let me kick it off this way, Larry, and ask you, there's some speculation and some conversation going around that Liv has found a new television outlet, which they desperately need. We've talked about that before. What do you know about that? I've read some stuff about it. I've heard some stuff about it. I know they have been trying to, but what's your knowledge?
Well, I've been a little bit out of pocket in the last week. I was actually over at the Open in Scotland and just got back. So I'm not aware of a new network, but certainly there should be a new network.
Yeah.
And it would make sense now that, the PGA Tour claims, at least on the surface, not under the surface, that they can live with Liv, so to speak. They want to try to have their merger. That'll never happen, of course, under antitrust laws. Hopefully they'll work out some kind of arrangement where the two tours can compete against each other, mutual events. But I don't know anything about it. But I do know this, is that, what the PGA Tour did in destabilizing the game of golf by trying to eliminate Liv as a competitor.
Right.
And of course, I have an antitrust case down in Palm Beach, Florida in that regard, which is seeking on behalf of consumers to get relief for the anti-competitive conduct of the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, the official golf world ranking, all of whom are colluding to exclude Liv players. In fact, Patrick Reed, my client and friend, was not at the British Open because he
Right.
didn't get the points. He has the points, but they weren't allowed to be used. He's a lifetime member of the DP World Tour. So all of this collusion between the tours has really hurt. And television ratings, generally speaking, are down a minimum of 20%. And Live can only improve it at this point. And hopefully they will find a network that can broadcast their events. One of the things which is really interesting, because I was there on Saturday, I was there for all 4 days. I had bought the tickets before. I thought Patrick would be playing. I went anyway. It is a great event,
Yeah.
the Open. The Europeans are much more respectful to the golfers than
Yes.
American fans on the PGA Tour, not on Live. But the wind was just unbelievable, the rain and everything else. And in Live, everybody goes off at the same time.
Yeah.
You see, it's staggered starts, so it's fair for everybody. But those who went out in the afternoon on Saturday took a real hit. And although, I'm not a real fan of Shane Lowry, he presents an image which, frankly, is different than the way he really is. I won't get into the particulars. That really cost him potentially the Open, the elements on that day, because he was actually pretty far ahead at that point in time, and
Yes.
he lost a lot of strokes in that regard.
Yeah, he did, and he's the one I bet. I put money on Shane to win the event, and I first couple of days I said, nah, I'm looking good. He's just got to hold on, if nothing happens, if it starts snowing or something like that. Yeah, but
Well, you're right. You're right. Those players that understand those conditions on a
yeah,
links course, with the wind and the rain and everything else, have a great advantage, generally speaking.
yeah,
So, it is quite remarkable that Xander Schauffele won under those
yeah,
conditions.
yeah, and played very, very well. You just
Did.
hit on it a little bit, Larry. TV viewership of the PGA Tour events outside of the majors is continuing to fall. And I think that's due to a couple of reasons. I hear from people, you got the 3M tournament going on right now. Nothing wrong with a PGA Tour event, but you look at the leaderboard, you don't know half of the guys, and people are turning and going, who is this guy? How long's he been on tour? I've never heard of him. And they are suffering, for lack of a better word, by not having all of the top players that are playing on the Live Tour bolstering these events, and viewership is down.
Well, you're right. And of course, that is a function of the fact that most of the players, many of them at least, that have a real personality
Yeah,
went over to Live. So people are not inclined to turn on the PGA Tour. And without knocking Xander Schauffele, who's a great golfer, there's no question about
yeah,
it. He's not a dynamic individual. Okay, he doesn't, generate excitement, and neither do most of the other players on the Live Tour. Look at Scotty Scheffler.
yeah,
I mean, he's apparently a nice guy,
yeah,
but he's not interesting to interact with, basically. Whereas on Live, you've got people like Sergio Garcia,
right,
Bryson DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, Brooks Koepka,
yeah,
Phil Mickelson. People are much more interested in watching that, and that's why Live has a great future if it's picked up by a major network.
yeah, yeah. They're not showmen, and they sure they appreciate the gallery, but I agree with you 100%. They could do more. Sure, they're good players, but they just got to get it out a little bit more, be a little more expressive. Speaking of that, how do you think, Larry, from what you know, what do the powers that be on the Live Tour, how do they choose or target a particular tour player to try to get them to start playing on the Live Tour?
Well, that is an issue which only the management knows. I don't have that specific information. The PGA Tour has alleged tortious interference. That case was dropped with prejudice. It won't come back. But there was no tortious interference. People wanted to go to the Live Tour, and there's nothing improper in actually soliciting someone to come over.
Yeah.
And in fact, when Live came up with the framework agreement with the PGA Tour a year ago, June, one of the terms was that Live was not going to be able to recruit during the period of coming up with an actual final agreement, PGA Tour players.
Right, right.
The antitrust division of the U.S. Department of Justice, my alma mater, in fact, I used to be in the antitrust division as a young lawyer. I helped break up AT&T, said, no, you can't do that. That's a restraint of trade. That would be a group boycott in terms of eliminating an individual's, rights to
Yeah,
participate on the tour that he wants to participate on.
yeah.
So that was dropped. So there's nothing wrong with Liv actually soliciting the player and saying, hey, are you interested in coming over? Let's talk. Here's a potential contract. Let's negotiate something. And I would suggest that after the end of the season, you'll probably see several more top flight PGA tours go over to Liv.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's interesting because I'm reading about they seem to be focusing right now on a very good guy, a very good player, Victor Hovland. They seem to be targeting him for whatever reason they think would bring to the Live Tour. I don't know if you're aware of that, but he would be a great asset to that tour. He's a good player. Seems like a good guy. He's got a little bit of a personality, and I'm just wondering what's the criteria to have them focus? Yeah, we'd like to get this guy on tour. Let's talk to him.
Yeah, I've read the same thing. I don't know if that's going to happen or not with Victor Hovland. He's also a very good-looking guy. He's got a great following among the women. But it is interesting because when I was walking around the Open last week, sometimes I would meet, I won't use names, I would meet individuals who were members of the family of some of the players, American players. And I asked them, I said, has your husband or has, not your husband, yeah, your husband, okay, I'm getting confused in this age where there's no sexes, sorry, been approached by Liv? And they would say, yeah. I won't get into the particulars of what was said, but anyone who's at a fairly high level or who has achieved or is up and coming,
Yeah.
I would suspect, has been approached by Liv or they've approached Liv. There's no reason not to, because in the end, this thing will end in terms of the suspensions, in terms of the fines, and the Liv players will be able to compete, uniformly in the majors if they have enough points and qualify, and many other tournaments as well. I mean, everybody sees that that's coming, but it's not coming soon enough.
Yeah, right. I agree. 100%. And I think the majors and the other special events, if you want to call them that the PGA Tour has, they realize, and the tournament realizes, the attendees realize they're missing the boat by not having people like Patrick Reed, the other people that you made, because they have a big following and they bring a lot of excitement to these events. So stop being stupid and extend them an invitation. They'd be more than happy to come.
I do not think, this is my reasoned opinion, that Liv will ever merge with the PGA Tour or vice versa. They will continue to exist side by side, and that's good. That's competition. But PGA Tour hurt Liv players a great deal. It hurt Patrick. It hurt others. They scared away sponsors. They defamed Patrick and others. His cases are still going through the courts with regard to what Golf Channel did and what others did.
Right.
And, it's a real shame. And that's why people have soured to some extent on watching, in particular, PGA Tour events, because they're sick of this. They're sick of the attitude of the PGA Tour and some of its players that sit on the player advisory board that have this elitist, arrogant attitude that, somehow they get to decide who's going to play in PGA Tour events. And if the Liv players want to come back, they're going to be penalized. And they can't even figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's in total disarray. But Liv will continue to exist. It will go forward. It will go on.
Yeah.
And it's got a great product. One of the things about the weather that occurred at the Open is that Liv has a staggered start. So everybody performs under the same conditions. Whereas, on that Saturday in particular, the morning was pretty good. I mean, a little bit of the sun popped out, but the afternoon was a torrent. And that had a great impact on who ultimately won the Open.
Yeah, and it's funny too, not funny, but I think it's interesting, and you know this as well, Larry. I think more and more tour players are speaking out about some of the inequities that the live players are getting from the PGA Tour. And I'm wondering how much longer could the commissioner hold on, Larry? I think he should have been gone a long time ago.
Well, you're right. Nobody has any respect for him. And by
Yeah.
the way, in my lawsuit, I'm the guinea pig, in effect. I'm the plaintiff as a golf fan from Florida. I brought the case as a consumer that I was
Right.
deprived of being able to see live players play on PGA Tour events. And
Right.
I purchased a number of tickets on PGA Tour events to give myself standing. I go anyway, no matter of course. I like going to golf tournaments. But the fact is that this situation has created a condition where the players on the PGA Tour have turned on Monahan. They have no respect for him.
Yeah.
He is a defendant in my case. He colluded with the majors. He colluded with OWGR to exclude
Right.
live players, and then he threw his own players under the bus. And then he comes up with these elevated events. And people like Tiger and Rory and others also participated in that. And the younger players are shut out generally.
Yeah.
So it's basically a cash cow for those players who get into these elevated events, which are the name players, which the sponsors want to see. And then to make matters worse, they have, I forget the name of it, I'll think of it in a second, but at the end of the year, they give money to players that subjectively they think have promoted the sport. Well, who's getting most of the money? Those who are already billionaires. Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy are two examples. So the young guys are looking at that and they're saying, what the F is going on here?
Yeah.
This is not a meritocracy. It's rigged. And we're being excluded from the elevated events, and then money's being given to people, frankly, who haven't done anything. I mean, Tiger was great in his day, but he can't win a tournament anymore.
No.
Because of his health. But they're loading money up to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, the PGA Tour is imploding from within.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Larry, hang on. We got to step away, take our first short break. And when we do come back with our friend Larry Klayman, we'll talk a little bit more about LIV and about some of the players and about some of the events that are coming up. So stay with us. I promise we're going to be back right after this. One of the perks about being in golf media is that I get to try every club ever made. Of course, like most things, some are better than others. I'm here to tell you that I have found unquestionably the absolute best performing set of irons I have ever played, and my scores show it. Let me introduce you to Grindworks, custom fitted irons that are made to fit your game. Grindworks offers players 3 different styles of irons. You can choose muscleback irons, cavity back irons, and even blades, along with some awesome wedges. And when you purchase your clubs, Grindworks lets you choose the type of shaft you want, the type grip you prefer, and even will adjust the loft and lie of your clubs if needed. That's unheard of. So what are you waiting for? Feel the power and experience and performance of these amazing clubs. Simply go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046 to order. Trust me, your handicap will love you for it. All right, welcome back. We are back with more of the 19th Hole podcast for golfers. I'm Dennis Silvers, having a great conversation, as we always do with our friend Larry Klayman. And I got to say, Larry, and you know this, you've got to set. Every time I take those Grindworks clubs out, I like them more and more. They do more great stuff for me than all the other sets I've had before.
It's the same way for me, actually. I don't say that because I love the Reed family, which I do, and what they do. But this Grindworks comes out of a forging operation in Japan. A little guy, sadly he is deceased recently, but his family continues on. And frankly, they're better than Miura, which are always thought to be the top of the line. They're the softest clubs I've ever played. Patrick himself designed them.
Right.
The grooves, everything, the lie. They have a beveled edge, so it doesn't stick in the ground. Some clubs that I've had, stick in the ground when you play with them. Don't go through the turf as easily. It depends on your swing, of course, but they're fantastic. So I
Yeah.
recommend them to everybody. You should
Yeah.
try them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't say that out of willy-nilly, because I'm using them every time I play. So, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Uh, Speaking of sponsors, as you know, the Aces, which is captained by Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed is one of their players. They just picked up, I'm reading, a sponsor, a jetliner or something like that. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they did, and
Tell
that's going
us.
to happen more and more. People are going to be coming to live for sponsors. No reason not to. And Patrick proudly wears his live hat and his uh,
Like
Aces
this one,
shirt
like this one, yeah.
and golf bag and everything else.
Yeah,
And so he actually is a sponsor, of promoting live, and so are many of the other players as
right.
well. But yes, you're going to have a lot of companies outside of live come to it, and people see that it has a longevity, that it's going to continue to exist. Uh, Yasser, who is the head of the Public Investment Fund, loves golf himself. President Trump himself is is very positive towards live,
Yeah, yeah.
and his clubs are being used. I'm wearing a Trump hat, Trump National in Pius Verdes, where shortly, not too far from where Tiger had his tragic accident.
Yeah.
But it's inevitable that they're going to get major sponsors. So it's starting to happen.
Yeah. Starting to happen, and I'm glad the Aces broke through and were the first ones. Uh, you know,
I might add, though, Dennis, that they'd have many more today, and they'd be much more prosperous, including Patrick himself, if this anti-competitive conduct hadn't gone on and continues with
yes,
the PGA Tour, OWGR, and DP World Tour.
that's a very, very good point that you made. Tiger Woods, as you know, is still in a lot of headlines. More and more people are going, I've had it enough. He's not competitive. He's not going to win a major. He's not, this and that. But he's kind of, always there. And I want to ask you about this. The speculation is, and I've talked with a number of industry people, and they agree with me that, Tiger is turning 50 pretty soon, and they're going to woo him with whatever they need to do to get him to play on the Champions Tour. Number one, he gets a cart, so the physical aspect shouldn't play as much of a role. And if he does play on the Champions Tour, that would be such a tremendous boost to sponsors, viewership, people that are there in the gallery and stuff. What do you feel about that?
This is my own personal opinion. I don't
Yeah,
see it happening. Um, I don't think someone like Tiger Woods, who's been so successful, is going to want to play on the senior tour. I just don't. I don't see it, frankly. And it's when you're up at that level.
yeah,
If you're president of the United States, you don't later run for vice president in
yeah,
many
true.
ways. Although it is possible, there's no prohibition to it. Clinton could even run with Kamala Harris at this point. I can read that.
Yeah,
But he probably hit on her, so it might
yeah,
be an issue. But I'm sure he's tried already. Frankly, there's nothing that gets past him in that
yeah,
regard.
yeah,
But the fact is that uh, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. And frankly, the senior tour. I mean, they're very jealous of Liv because they don't make much money on the senior tour.
right,
They play for the love of the game,
right,
and it's the same players every week. There are not that many of them.
right.
And I'll be candid, it's rather boring to watch. It's very boring to watch.
Okay, how do you really feel? All right, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm a senior myself at this point, but I got to tell you, it doesn't connect with me. I don't think he's going to do it.
yeah. It just doesn't have the same vibe as the PGA Tour with the younger guys and stuff. And I
Well,
agree with
and
you.
I like Bernhard Langer. I think he's a very classy guy, a very fine person. And what he achieved there was fantastic.
It's
And that's
amazing.
no reflection on that's no reflection on the players themselves. I just
Yeah.
don't see the popularity. I think you're more likely to watch the LPGA. I mean, at least the women are attractive. These are old
Yeah.
guys that
Well, that's
you don't
true.
feel like watching.
Yeah, that is very, very true. When do you think, and of course you're right in the middle of this, Larry, with all of the litigation that's going on behalf of Patrick Reed and yourself and others, do you see a time where this is going to start winding down?
I would hope so, but they're having difficulty. And it was Lucas Glover who said, sometimes I listen to Tokyo Rose Radio, the PGA Tour radio on Sirius. I listen to them just because I want to know what the other side's saying. And sometimes they make reference to me, so I kind of laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and because we had these issues early on with my
Yeah.
antitrust case, and would bring you defamation cases for Patrick Reed. But it's a strange situation. And Lucas Glover gave an interview a while back, and he said, "Why are all these PGA Tour players on the advisory council, and on the board and
Yeah.
making decisions? They're not businessmen. They don't know what they're doing. We know how to play golf, but we're not businessmen, generally
Right.
speaking. Some were. Arnold Palmer was a great businessman. Jack Nicklaus became a great businessman. But excuse me, I'm itching. But I think that's the problem, is that they can't get it together among themselves.
Yeah.
And I only know what I read, and I read that Patrick Cantlay has assumed control to some extent, and also Tiger Woods and others. And there's a lot of jealousy. Rory wanted to come back, and he was told, "Don't come back."
Yeah.
Rory's got his own problems, obviously.
Yeah.
So they're in a state of disarray.
Yeah, and you hear more and more tour players when they get together and openly talking to the media saying that we've got to get this settled because it's not good for the state of the game. And they're disappointed with the way things are going. And more people are expressing the fact that, gosh, I miss playing with Brooks Koepka. I miss playing with Patrick Reed. He was a great playing partner. And they're expressing that more and more, Larry.
Well, you've got the Olympics this week.
Yeah.
Patrick is a two-time Olympian. He was in very bad health a few years ago when he flew over to take a spot. He actually risked his life in doing it. He loves the Olympics. And he loves the DP World Tour, for that matter. He's a
Yeah.
lifetime member. He loves Europe. When we participated in what was in effect like an arbitration going back a year and a half in London, when we were trying to get a ruling from Sports Resolutions. This was the arbitrator.
Yeah, I remember
in
that.
fact, that they could play, that they shouldn't be fined, etc. Of course, that was a rigged proceeding. It was the three judges, were just they had them in their hip pocket. But the fact is that Patrick made a point of saying, "I love Europe. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I came personally." So it's really sad that people are being shut out. It's not clear that John Rahm will be able to play in the Ryder Cup. Why would you want to exclude Patrick from the Ryder Cup? He has one of the best records, if not the best record. He's Captain America, the all-time great match with him and Rory McIlroy. That's where he got that name. He's a great match play player as well as a great medal player. And they're depriving themselves of talent,
Yeah.
and being rather spiteful about it.
Yeah, that's the thing that's a killer. It's these players, they're all good for the game, and if you can improve an event, why not do what you can to get all of these people together? And like I say, it's not as if the PGA Tour players hate these guys that are playing on Live. They're good friends. Okay, they made a decision to go. I'm still here, but I still like to see the guy. I still like to play against them.
Well, and there's a lot of envy, though, particularly after the framework agreement was announced in June of 2023, I was.
Yeah.
And so this is, it's human nature. And when they learned that Monahan had thrown them under the bus, because Monahan was saying, "Well, we'll never, ever do anything with Live. Live is terrible. Players are acceptors of blood money. They cohort with terrorists, all this BS, excuse the French, bullshit." And then when Monahan says, "Okay, we'll take the money and run. We have no problem anymore." And they never
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
And notice they
Yeah.
never attacked the women. They never attacked the
No.
LPGA players who are so highly dependent on Saudi money with the Aramco series and everything else.
Right.
And that was off limits, okay? But you had to go after the live players, and you had to
Yeah.
destroy them and their reputations. And I'll tell you something. I'm convinced that our cases that are up on appeal right now for Patrick will come back, and I'm convinced that we will get very, very large damages against these announcers on golf channels such as Brandel
Yeah.
Chambly,
Yeah.
such as Ian
Deservedly
Lynch,
so. Yeah.
such as Shane Bacon,
Yeah.
such as many others that we had to sue because they were trying to destroy Live by destroying the reputation of Patrick Reed and its players.
Right.
And that was despicable. And frankly, you cannot turn the other cheek when something
Yeah.
like that
No,
happens.
you can't. You absolutely, and I agree with you. I think you're gonna hit a home run eventually with him and the litigation he has ongoing. But let me do this. We're up against another short break. Stay with us, and when we come back, we will wrap things up with Larry Klayman. So don't move. We are coming back. Stay tuned. The revolutionary Power to Golf Club requires no swing to hit golf shots from 50 up to 225 yards. That's right, no swing. It's empowering golfers with physical issues to continue enjoying time golfing with friends and family. With just the push of a button, the easy-to-use Power to Golf Club launches shots down the fairway and onto the green. Whether a physical issue or just want to join in on the fun, the Power to Golf Club is for you. Visit online, powergolfclub.com.
Carter Bonus of Spectrum Golf not slowing down. His third year at the PGA Show, and the cameras are still following him. This time, Whistle Sports Media and Entertainment and Fox 35's morning show in Orlando, Florida. Spectrum Golf Apparel, one of the few lines selected for the PGA Fashion Show, is designed with skin sensitivity in mind, like Carter's. Get your super soft golf gear today at carterspectrumgolf.com.
All right, welcome back. I think I mentioned last show that Carter and his family are going to be here in Las Vegas in March, and we're going to have Carter on the show. So I told you it's great products, great colors, great fabrics. They do shirts, they do pants. They've even got a golf club now. So spectrumgolf.com, and you'll want to buy some stuff. Trust me. Anyway, back with Larry Klayman, and I wanted to ask you if you have, other than Patrick, of course, who's your client, whether you have contact or any conversation at all with any of the other live players, particularly getting their viewpoint and their slant on what they feel is happening and how things are going.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm exclusive to Patrick
Yeah.
in terms of representing him and
Right.
my client, my friend, and the family. And it's not a question of representing the others. But yes, in terms of going to live events, yes, I have an opportunity to talk to the players. And I did that when I was in Saudi Arabia a while back. I had a little conversation with Phil Mickelson, which was good. Also, Brooks Koepka. And I might say they're all very nice people. They really have a great camaraderie to them.
Yeah.
And I won't get into too much of the strategy, but early on, I talked to many of the players about what I was doing in Palm Beach and also with the DP World Tour in terms of lining up potential witnesses to support Patrick's case. So yes, I've talked with them. And they're all rational. There's no hatred, towards anybody on the PGA Tour. They just want to be left alone. They want to be able to do their job
Do
as
their thing.
independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's absolutely the way it should be. Do you have any knowledge about uh, Live Tour expanding the amount of tournaments it has, or making a concerted effort to go to certain venues year after year, like Trump, to play their golf events?
This is kept very close to the vest.
Okay.
And no one knows that, even the players, in that respect. And I suspect that Greg Norman has a lot to say about where that happens. And
Yeah.
they're formulating, various plans. There have been discussions, obviously, as to whether they go to a 72-hole format.
Right.
But, if they were to do that, they would destroy the concept to some extent of live, which is meant to, be quick, to be entertaining,
Yeah. Be different. Yeah.
and to be different. And it's actually harder to win a 54-hole event because you can't have a letdown on any day. You got to come out of the chute
Exactly
really
right.
fast
Exactly
on that.
right.
So I don't think that's going to happen. But that is kept close to the vest with regard to live. And frankly, even if they went, for instance, to 72 holes, that would not have satisfied OWGR, Official Golf World Ranking. There are at least 2 or 3 tours already who do 54 holes that are members of OWGR. This is pure anti-competitive discrimination against live players.
Yeah. 100%.
100%. And I mean, there are things I know I can't get into right now because documents are under seal in my case in Palm Beach. But watch what happens. They're going to come out pretty shortly, and you'll see the story of what's been going on.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It just seems all very, very, one-sided, unfortunately. And it would be interesting to get into the heads, if you could, of some of the current PGA Tour players, to really get their honest bottom line opinion about they're being treated terribly. This should not happen. We should have done this, or Monahan should have done that, or acquiesced to this. It would be very interesting. Somebody asked me the other day, Larry, I want to get your opinion. Of course, it's been brought up before. Do you think there's going to ever be a live tour for women players?
I think there will be, yeah. And the
You
women
do?
want it. The
They
women
do want it.
Yeah. Well, they're already largely sponsored by Aramco.
Yeah.
And, they have no hesitation in that regard. If it wasn't for the Saudis, they wouldn't have the purses they have, and they wouldn't be growing. And I might say that, Saudi Arabia is much maligned because it's progressive. It has a progressive prince who wants to move the country well into the 21st century. He loves sports. He loves golf. It's not sports washing. He actually loves it. Although he was asked a question by Brett Baer a while back about sports washing. And he made a funny response. He says, yeah, if I'm doing sports washing, if I can make a little more money, certainly I really don't care what people say. Right.
Yeah.
But they really are a very positive force here. And the Saudis own about a third of the U.S. economy. I mean, they own great portions of Boeing, of Walt Disney, of Apple, of others. So why did you have to pick on the golfers? It's not right. And they happen to be one of the 3 best allies we have in the world. Particularly in the Middle East. We need Saudi Arabia, and we need, potentially the oil. Of course, we have enough. If we drilled more, we wouldn't need anybody. But
Well, true.
Biden and Harris didn't think that was a good idea. They'd
Yeah,
rather
no.
buy it overseas.
Yeah, they wanted to be dependent on other countries, right?
Yeah.
When we've got it literally under our feet. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Anyway, what's on tap for you? I want you to talk about your podcast and tell everybody the name, when they could hear it.
Thank you. Well, actually, I do one nearly every day when I can. Usually it's about 8 minutes. It's called Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. You can find it at freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org. We get it out on Rumble. We get it out on Truth Social. We get it out on Facebook. It's all over. You can look for it on X. I posted on X. I did one today, for instance. I did a political one.
Right.
I am a conservative. I don't hide that. And I don't tell people who to vote for, but I am a conservative. People can figure out who I vote for, I'm
Right.
sure. But so I do one every day. And then, of course, on Friday, I do a longer one, which is because I have a radio show, and it's now digital. So it's about 40 minutes, doesn't have any commercials, so you don't have to go through that. But I would really appreciate it if people would go to freedomwatchusa.org, because we are your real Justice Department. You don't have a Justice Department today.
Yeah.
What's being used for political purposes, it's been weaponized.
Right.
And we could use the resource, and if you contribute, it's tax deductible.
Yeah.
And join our Justice League. freedomwatchusa.org. I'm the founder of Judicial Watch.
Right.
I've been an activist for a very, very long time. And one of the reasons I enjoy the golf industry so much is because, I feel like I can do a lot of good. And it kind of takes my mind off of the sad state of the political and government world that we live in. So I'm fighting every single day, Dennis.
I know you are, and we're glad you're doing it, Larry. We need, the industry as a whole needs somebody to stand up for it, and like they say, right the wrongs and stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that appreciate it. So if you appreciate it, like I say, go to the website. Larry's always welcoming some money because they need money to keep this going, obviously, like most endeavors. So, keep.
Yeah, I might add, we just brought a lawsuit. I brought one yesterday, and the defendants are Kamala Harris, Joseph Biden, the doctor Kevin O'Connor, and the Democratic Party of Florida, who covered up Biden's health. This is how he got elected in 2020. So I'm actually using Florida election laws as a Florida voter and as a Florida citizen to try to enforce this. And I'm saying that Harris should be kept off the ballot. I don't tell you who to vote for, but she perpetrated that fraud. She knew just how sick Biden was. And
had to.
This risks our national security. What do we do? Just a couple of days ago, the Chinese and Russians in a joint exercise crossed into our border in Alaska with bombers, okay?
Yeah.
And this guy's probably sleeping in the middle of the night. You can't even get him up. Yeah. There's an emergency.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, that's interesting. Good on you for doing that. And you filed it in Florida?
You can see it at freedomwatchusa.org. It was filed in Leon County, Florida.
Okay.
Which is where the Democratic Party is. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Absolutely.
They've got to obey the law. They're not above the law. And you can't be pulling the wool over the American people and voting for people, who are non-functional. We all see what happened with.
Yeah.
And this is not new. What we saw at the debate, this has been the case throughout.
Yeah.
And that's why the country's on its knees, gasping for air.
Very evident. Very evident. Good for you. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy about that when they more and more people learn about that. Good for you. Anyway, that's why we love you, Larry. So I'm going to let you go. Thank you for your time because I know you're busy as hell. And I know you're working on your golf game a lot, hopefully. So when you get out to Vegas, hopefully pretty soon, we're going to play.
I was going to say, I've lost some yardage because of my back. So I went to see a back surgeon recently. We'll see if I decide to do that or not. What's more important, golf or risking a back surgery? I say golf's more important.
Absolutely, yeah. Stay away from the surgery. Stay away from the surgery. We'll get you in shape, but we hope to see you out here very soon and have you back on very soon. Again, thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Dennis. You're my good friend, and you have a great show. And
thank you.
I appreciate everything you do.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and spending time with us. So take care. We will be in touch very soon. All right, everybody. That is Mr. Larry Klayman. Great guy. Very, very good attorney. And he always stays busy. We're going to step away, take our last break, finish up with a golf minute, and we will return to Shut It Down. Be right back. Hi, I'm Dennis Silvers, but I'm not here today to talk to you about golf. I'm here to talk to you about America's favorite pastime, Baseball, America's pastime, is back and better than ever with a twist you won't believe. Introducing Old Timers Day, a movie coming soon to theaters near you.
It is a story detailing the greatest baseball game of all time. Two teams, one chosen by God, one chosen by Satan, with the greatest players of all time, living and deceased, playing alongside each other to determine the fate of mankind.
This book, world tour, and movie will help unify the millions of baseball fans around the country and help satisfy the millions of people that have faith and compassion for their fellow man.
Who will win this epic game? You'll have to watch to find out. Expect an unforgettable experience that will touch your heart and soul.
The Good Old Boys is brought to you by the Celestial Baseball Association, who are hitting home runs for God.
Old Timers Day, where the spirit of baseball meets the power of faith. Don't miss it.
Order your copy today at dpztechnology.com/store. Get this, use promo code OTD20 for an amazing 20% off.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Silvers for 8 News Now, back at Bears Best with Tilly Gretsch, longtime PGA teaching professional. And putting, as we all know, is extremely important to shooting good scores in golf. But you got to find out what kind of putter you are. Can you explain that to our viewers?
All right, so there's two types of putters. There's a linear putter and a non-linear putter. Linear putters putt on a straight line, non-linear putters see on a curve. Come on in here, Dennis, let's take a look at what you are.
Okay.
So we've got a tee set up just to the right side of the hole. We're gonna see, where does Dennis aim in relation to that tee? So Dennis right now is doing the best he can to aim at that tee. And currently he is now a non-linear putter because he's aiming right at the tee. So linear putter is gonna aim at that tee, and they're gonna putt at that tee and it's gonna go in the hole. The non-linear putter, they're gonna always be aiming probably right or left of that tee, whatever they're seeing the break. Ooh, it's looking good. Nice. What a make.
Tilly, I feel my putting game already improving. I'm a non-linear putter. I didn't know that for years. Thanks so much for opening my eyes. For the Golf Minute, I'm Dennis Silvers. We'll see you back next time, everybody. All right, that's going to conclude this edition of the 19th Hole podcast for golfers. So on behalf of Larry Klayman, I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, and we're going to be back with another good show, same time. Well, a little bit earlier, normal time. We had to do it a little bit later today, but usually at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with another great guest, another great show. So until then, get out and play some golf and keep hitting the short stuff, everybody. We'll see you next week. So long.